You want me to put that on my Tudor?
Harry's wife. No intellectual wisdom. Such a description of Harry's wife will not come as a surprise to you. She likes to think herself as having a considerable intellect. She believes, driven by the delusion of her narcissism, that she is some titan of brain power. She does not belong to the cerebral cadre of narcissist. Those type of narcissists are all about the mind and its associated matters. They display their superiority or perceived superiority with the words that they use and their interest in argument, the written or the oral argument. They inhabit the worlds of literature, art, film, photography, interior design. While sex is of importance to them, their attitude towards it is less involved than that of the somatic or the elite narcissist. They're more likely to engage, for instance, in telephone sex or mutual masturbation over Skype, the distance providing them with a form of security. They will go through with the actual physical act, but more out of sense of duty than anything else. That duty being, of course, to the maintenance of subconscious control, not, of course, a sense of duty to their spouse or partner. Harry's wife is not a cerebral narcissist, although she, of course, has delusions of believing herself to be a great thinker, that she believes herself to be inspirational. She is very much somatic, because so much of the focus of her life is upon the material, rather than the intellectual and cerebral. Although she went to university, it doesn't appear to have done her much good, and one often wonders at the quality of that institution to have somebody who evidently has such a low cognitive function join them. You only have to listen to her speak, and you can see that there's nothing going on behind those dead eyes, that she's just regurgitating what she's heard elsewhere. There's no actual consideration of what she's saying. It's just blurted out. Another word salad of fridge magnet platitudes that spills all over the audience, who some are too taken up in the fact of believing, oh, look, it's Harry's wife, to really listen to what she has to say. But anybody of substance, recognizing that what she has to say is meaningless, pointless, sponge-like, marshmallow-like. There's nothing really to it. This is a view that has been shared by a particular commentator that has been picked up by the international news in their usual direct and succinct manner. They report Harry's wife is being blasted for lacking the lived experience to upkeep a holier-than-thou life. Experts believe Harry's wife possesses not the lived experience to upkeep her holier-than-thou life. In other words, they're suggesting that she's a hypocrite. These accusations have been issued by GB News host Patrick Christys. The veteran journalist started the conversation off by accusing Harry's wife of not having the intellectual wisdom or capacity and lived experience to keep up with archetypes. Was it a mistake to try and do a podcast that was based around some kind of holier-than-thou high echelon of intellect, he asked, telling the world, I have got this message to give and words of wisdom. Before concluding, he also said, when with respect Harry's wife did not have the lived experience, or, dare I say, the intellectual wisdom and capacity to actually offer something to people. It became understandable that Spotify moved to terminate the contract, Mr. Christie felt. Now, of course, he identifies that she is a woman of no substance, that she really doesn't have anything to offer. And that's because of two things. First, as a narcissist that has no talent. Remember, some narcissists do, but she's a narcissist that has no talent and is an empty shell. As South Park no doubt picked up upon from my videos, they homed in on the fact that she is an empty individual, something they portrayed so well in their parody of Harry's wife. Moreover, she just drifts through life, acquiring the character traits of other people, but never, ever absorbing it in a meaningful way. She takes from other people their experiences, their quotes, their achievements, and uses them in the instance to make her look good by way of character trait acquisition, thus asserting control over people and drawing fuel. But the way that she lives her life, there is no depth, there's no absorption of those experiences to then explain them in a meaningful fashion to other people. Yet, of course, like many narcissists of her ilk, the mealy-mouthed, cowardly mid-rangers, they will adopt a platform where they pronounce their judgment on others, that they know better than anybody else. And classically, they know your mind. They know what you're thinking. They know how you ought to be thinking and behaving, because that is the level of delusion by which they operate. There's nothing to back it up, but like Harry's wife, they feel that they can tell you how you should be thinking. That she explains through those fridge magnet platitudes the way that the world is. That she shares with people who, for the most part, where they have functioning brain cells, would clap politely and think, "Thank you for telling me something meaningless." A few sponge-brained dullards will be taken in by the fact that it's Harry's wife and would think what she has to say is inspirational. But most people will recognise that there simply is no substance, and that for her to adopt this holier-than-thou approach is entirely unrealistic. And because, as a consequence of those restrictions and shortcomings, and that she has no charisma, no imagination, no pizzazz, she's so beige, that even somebody who might not really be able to say something but does so in an entertaining fashion, or is just eminently likeable, people will give a pass to. But she doesn't get that. And instead, her audience on Spotify mainly consisted of hate listens. People wanting to laugh at her, wanting to hear her fail. And fail she did. And thus now there's another challenge to her need for control. It's threatened once again, as she is described as not having the intellectual wisdom or capacity to actually offer something to people. Entirely accurate and a damning judgment upon her, and something that should be aware of it, she will rail against, because she thinks she's a woman of substance. She thinks that she's a woman of mass appeal, of inspiration and brilliance, and once again fails to see, because her narcissism will never ever let her see her shortcomings, that she is none of the things that she believes that she is. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.